Welcome to the Women of Ihsan podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and this is an invitation to join me and our amazing guests to find inspiration and insights into your own journey to Ihsan. If you ever feel overwhelmed or confused along the way, I'm also here to support you so you can tackle your challenges with confidence and make progress towards this lofty goal. To find out more about my work, check the episode description and make sure to subscribe.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Bismillah wa salat wa salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome to a new episode of the Women of Ihsan podcast. Today, I am delighted to have with me Maylene Seah. Maylene is an award-winning brand strategist and designer at Studio NOOR ANISA and the founder of Poppetry, a well-loved Islamic kids lifestyle shop which was sold in 2020. She is also a multitasking mom of two. She's driven by a powerful vision to reshape the narrative for Muslims, one captivating brand at a time. Having worked in award-winning agencies with global brands like Unilever, P&G in her agency days, Maylene now helps Muslim movers and shakers stand out and stand up with an unapologetically brilliant brand so that they can make a huge impact with style and ihsan. Maylene, thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule. Salam alaikum and welcome again.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited and grateful to have this chat with you.
Thank you so much. So let's get into it without further ado. Please tell us about yourself, a little bit about your background. We want to know everything.
Okay, so thank you for the introduction. So I think you've already mentioned I'm a brand strategist and designer, and I help Muslim movers and shakers make an impact with style and ihsan. And I really believe in having that unapologetically brilliant brand, especially with what's happening nowadays. It's really important for, Muslims or Muslim businesses to stand up for their values, to have that, to have that brighter future, brighter world that we can live in and for our children. So a little bit more about me. Basically, I'm from Singapore, and I came here when I was about 20. I came to London when I was about 24 on I bought a one-way ticket to London to pursue my dreams. And I'm also a revert or convert to Islam. I embraced Islam when I was 21. And this was, I remember, I was putting my head on the prayer mat and deciding that I couldn't live in a day without Allah. And when I was 21, I decided, since I'm going to be officially an adult, I am going to embrace Islam.
So you embraced Islam when you were in Singapore?
When I was in Singapore, yes.
Oh,
and
subhanallah.
this was also around the time there was a lot of changes. This was when I was also a junior designer. So I had finished school doing visual communications. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So I decided to pursue this this career path of becoming a designer. And this was straight after school. So from there, I, obviously moved on to bigger pastures, greener pastures over here in London. So that's me. So that's what I've been kind of like doing, from becoming a designer to having my own Islamic kids lifestyle shop when I was on maternity leave. And then now I'm doing the same for Muslim brands. For many small Muslim businesses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think, we all love, these stories of converts embracing Islam. And I don't know if you're comfortable with sharing a little bit more about that. Like,
Sure. Yes, I'd be happy
especially
to.
like in Singapore, it feels like so, you know, exotic. And I just feel like it's so, subhanallah, Allah guides whomever He wills, wherever they are in the world.
Mhm.
And I would be curious. You don't have to, but I would be curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm very happy to. So basically, when I was 19, So I'm like Chinese background. My mom's from Malaysia. My dad's, well, always been Singaporean, but like my ancestors were from China. So,
Okay.
so very much from Singapore. And I remember, I was dating this guy, and so he's Muslim. That was like first time that I really got to know about Islam. I had Muslim friends in school. You know, they pray and they don't eat pork and they fast during Ramadan. But that was like, you know, my limited knowledge of what
Mm.
Islam
So there was a Muslim community
in
back
Singapore. Yes,
back in
yeah.
Singapore.
So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Singapore, yes, that's like about 40% at that time. I remember
Hmm.
that's Muslims, mostly Malay Muslims, and you do have some like Indian, probably more South Indian Muslims as well. So my introduction to Islam really started with this guy that I was dating, and probably one of the more serious relationships. I know it's kind of like haram and stuff like that, but this was how it happened. And his mom said to me like, "Oh, why don't you go and learn about Islam?" And you know, there was this organization, alhamdulillah for it, called Darul Arqam, and it's like the Muslim Association for Converts, basically.
Hmm.
And before then, I had actually, you know, tried fasting for about 3 years by then. Completely stopped eating pork because even though my Chinese background, we have a lot of pork, I stopped that, you know, just out of like, you know, respect for like my boyfriend then, and also just like his family and everything. It's kind of naturally I just stopped doing that. So went to learn about Islam, and yeah, I think it kind of went on for about a year. And then later on, well, being the young girl I was, I decided like, okay, you know, I don't want to pursue this relationship anymore. And so during that time, a lot of things happened that I'm not that comfortable with sharing, so I wouldn't share it. But what I like to say is during that time, there was a lot of kind of lows, a lot of like finding myself. And what happened was I also knew, I think before the relationship ended, that, you know, if I were to ever become Muslim, like I want to do it on my own terms. I'm not going to embrace Islam because of a guy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at that time, you know, being a volunteer, and I was a volunteer at Darul Arqam as well after like completing a lot of the classes. And you know, there's a lot of people who married into the religion, and I didn't see myself doing that. So obviously I ended the relationship, and then I think one day I kind of just decided, I was still learning at Darul Arqam. I kind of just decided, actually, you know, let's try and pray.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took out the prayer mat and started praying. I mean, this was like one of those times where it was kind of like a very exploratory self-discovery stage for me. But like I said earlier, just when my head touched the mat, I was like, oh, like, you know, there's this just calm and this gratitude just like washed over my whole body. And I was like, I cannot from this moment, like, not recognize that Allah. And I can't imagine dying without being a Muslim and accepting that Allah is like the one God, right?
Yeah.
So then I decided, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm gonna embrace Islam. And what happened then was, I think I wasn't 21 yet. So I know my mom is very, very stout Buddhist, also very superstitious about a lot of things. But what happened was, yeah, when I was 21, I remember like went back to Darul Arqam and took my shahada. I had alhamdulillah, my ex-boyfriend came and like witnessed the conversion. And I think I had another friend as well who did that. So subhanallah. But yeah, after that, it was like amazing feeling, because you know, you feel like you're starting with a clean slate. And you know, even though I had so many like things that I wasn't proud of for doing from before. It felt like, okay, this is my fresh start.
Yeah, indeed.
This is my fresh start. And so yes, subhanallah. And then from then on, I kind of just continued my classes, continued volunteering and like being there for other new Muslims. And I had an amazing ustaza who, well, she's passed away now, like in I think last 2 years, but she was amazing. I remember going for Friday lessons every day at her house with a whole group of other mostly Chinese Muslim converts. And yeah, I was like, one day I would like to be like her. Like I like to be able to, you know, spread the beauty of Islam the way that she did. And sorry, I'm getting very emotional with the kindness that she did.
Mhm.
So yeah. So that was like how it all started. And but I think what I was really happy with, I made this decision kind of, I chose it, not because, well, I mean, obviously Allah chose it for me, but you know, I made the decision to embrace Islam like on my own terms in a way. And I think
Mhm.
that was something that I was really kind of proud of. My mom didn't take it so well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I
How were your
remembered
parents?
I was so you know, up to that point before I converted, I had started praying and obviously I locked the door. But I just remember after embracing Islam, like shortly after I went home, my brother knew because we kind of like used the same room, and my bed was there, but his computer was in my room. So he knew that I was Muslim already. So yeah, I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to just pray, leave the door unlocked. If it's meant to happen, she will walk in. And that's okay. Like I was okay with that. I'm like, Allah, you know, you decide if she wants to walk in or not. Like if this is the time for her to find out, I'll you know, I'll face it. I'll face it if it happens. And subhanAllah, she walked in that day and I left the door unlocked for the first time. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. And she's like, she went mental and she was like, I'm gonna jump off like the 6th floor because we were on the 6th floor of a block of
Oh
flats.
my.
Jump out the kitchen window and like I was like, I mean, I know my mom can be quite dramatic, but I don't know. I kind of knew that she wouldn't do it, but at the same time, obviously, I'm also fearful that she might do
Of
it.
course.
But she was like, oh, did your ex-boyfriend's family like curse you or something? And it was yeah, she was very emotional, obviously, because like being a very devout Buddhist, and
Mhm.
you know, like she prayed to the goddess of mercy on an altar in the house and all that kind of stuff. But then she went and like called her friend who's a fortune teller at the temple, and she was like, oh, you know, obviously just telling him everything. And and you know, subhanallah, like the next morning, I mean, I was like, let her calm down. But the next morning, you know, I went into her room to get my things, and she's like, okay, so what can you eat? What can you eat? Like what's halal, what's not halal? Like, oh, mashallah. Like she was actually open to it. I think what happened was her fortune teller friend told her that, oh, this is a phase, you know, she's 21. And because he's a fortune teller, right?
Yeah.
Oh, like in 2 years' time, she will come back to Buddhism.
Okay.
I think that's what I suspect that's the trick that did it. Because she was like, okay, 2 years is fine. I'll close my eyes for 2 years, you know,
Oh,
and
okay.
then maybe she'll come back to being Buddhist once she had her fun or something like that. So, I mean, obviously 2 years passed and I was still Muslim and it just kept going on. But alhamdulillah, I think, you know, hats off to my mom. I respect that she was willing to like be open in that way and allow me to do that, because I remember after, like, not long after, I won this cruise to go on a cruise, like this like luxury cruise. So I brought her
Mm-hmm.
and I was wearing my hijab then, because like when I first converted, because I had a period of like wearing hijab, not wearing hijab when I moved to London, and then now I'm recently putting it on again. But when I first converted, I was like, no, I'm putting my hijab on. So I was like, everything must be perfect, you know?
Mashallah.
And so I went with her like wearing hijab, and I still remember like you know, she was okay walking around with me in my hijab. Like, how hard must it have been for her? Thinking like, I want my daughter to be Buddhist, right? And
Mhm.
like, and still remember sitting at this table in a dining hall, like 10 other Chinese aunties, and me, this like Chinese girl with a hijab, like the kind of I mean, like I would have, but she must have had like voices in her head, like saying, "Oh gosh, what are people gonna think?" and everything.
Mhm.
But subhanAllah, she kind of just sat through it, We had the vegetarian food, so it's fine for me. So yeah, I think she took it in the stride. Mashallah, like wasn't that hard for me. So I always say like my journey has been like alhamdulillah a breeze in that sense. Like Allah made it easy for me. And I'm grateful for that. And then my dad was just like, oh yeah, it's fine as long as you don't try and convert me, yeah, we're good. So that was okay. So yeah, subhanallah, it kind of just it was a very beautiful time, I think, for me,
Mhm.
that period of
Mhm.
time, learning about Islam and kind of, yeah, just growing in it, really.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I know it's maybe not that easy, but I feel like really in this podcast, I want to really keep it real. It's not always, rosy and that we have easy life. No, we actually, all of us, we have our struggles,
Mm,
whether we were born Muslim or we came later to Islam or like whatever the case may be. And I think every story is unique and different. So I'm sure, there is someone out there who can resonate with that in one way or another. And this is why I was interested in, and also I'm just curious. I'm subhanallah, like I was also emotional at some point because it's really how Allah guides.
mm,
Like we were so far away from Him, like we didn't think about Him, like, to say the truth,
yes,
and but He never forgot about us.
definitely, definitely.
So yes, subhanallah. So I wanted to ask also, what's your personal story? So maybe there's another story on top of this one.
And so yes, so yeah, like I suppose how I took that one-way ticket and like got to where I am. So
Yeah, yeah.
with my personal story, like with regards to um well, okay, when I was a little girl, I dreamt of having my own hotel. So that was
Okay.
like that's still a big dream. To be honest, I forgot about it. But I wanted to have a hotel. I wanted to create this amazing experiences to bring people together for them. Like I think I was in this interview and someone asked why, and something that kind of might have, well, it made me think that maybe I wanted to bring people together as well through those amazing experiences, because my parents are divorced, and I think that's probably a part of me that always look back to that one moment we were all together on the beach, on holiday. And so I think that's that might have been the reason why, like, the hotel thing is something that's in there and something I'm kind of like revisiting. Inshallah, I don't
Mhm.
know how I'm going to get there, but that's up to Allah. But yeah, the whole thing about creating experiences. I remember, when I was, no, actually, then my mom, because I've always been a creative sort, she and her hotel manager friend said to me, like, oh, working your way up in the hotel industry, it's really hard. Like, you're creative. Why don't you go and explore like advertising and design? And I did. And, I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to follow like the herd. Like I always want to like go on my own, go on off the beaten track.
Mhm.
And at that time in Singapore, there was just this, I mean, do you call it herd mentality? I mean, it's kind of different now, but at that time it's like, okay, to be successful, you have to have the 5 Cs, you have to, go to school, go to college, go to university, come out, work for someone. And I didn't see that for myself. Like,
Mhm.
I've always wanted to break out of that. Like, I wanted to get out of Singapore. Not because I needed to get out of there, but I wanted to explore what's out there. So there was that part. And I remember when I first got to my very first design agency as a junior designer, I used to flip through there's like books with this amazing award-winning agencies, brand and packaging design agencies, and I would be like, oh, this is like so amazing. Like I would love to do that. But actually, even before that, you know, like because my parents couldn't afford like the design education for me, so I used to also flip through lots of prospectuses, just like, you know, just fantasizing about like, how can I get myself to this school? Like, oh, okay, you know what, like Singapore, they started doing this design school all of a sudden, like when I graduated from primary school, I was like, let's try this route. So I'm sharing all this because actually I forgot about all that. But then the whole desire to want to go overseas to work, to want to travel around doing like I wanted to be a stylist, you know, writing about food and travel. I wanted to go to all the different kind of masjids in the world, listening to all the azans and writing about that. Like all that desire, I realized a few years ago that it's actually all manifested in some form or other. So, you know, as you know, I came to London because of my now husband. And I have worked with those agencies that I saw in those brand design books, like Turner Duckworth and Design Bridge. And then having, you know, one of the big clients I worked with in the past was Unilever. And like there was this brand I was working on where the client literally sent me to like luxury hotels around the world and like did photo shoot directing. I'm pretty much involved in the whole process. And I still remember the photographer and producer myself would be like, okay, let's get a shoot done. And I would go on a safari. We're going to go do this, we're going to go do that. And it's kind of like, when I look back, you know, I never knew how I was going to do all those things that I wanted to do, but they kind of manifested. So yeah, that's me. And then that was the agency days. And then when I had my kid, I started Poppetry, which is like Islamic kids lifestyle shop, out of the need to have a creative outlet. But then I also realized I wanted to have something for my kids to kind of inspire them, you know, the beauty of Islam as they were growing up. And there wasn't anything out there at that time. And being a designer, I love all things Scandinavian. Like, I love those aesthetics, and I wanted something, you know, that was really nice to look at as well, but meaningful. And yeah, there wasn't anything like that. The Islam I saw my friends growing up with were very like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. I didn't want that for my kids. So when I had them, or the first one, I was like, no, I want to be able to help my children learn to love Allah. And it was the same thing with, I found out later that a lot of parents who bought my products felt the same way. But yeah, so that business went on for about 7 years, and I grew into this iconic, well-loved brand. I know a lot of people still tell me like, oh, I have your vintage pieces now, because obviously I sold the business. So yeah, that's kind of like that personal story from how I was a designer, then having my own business, and then back to helping small businesses with their brands because of what I could do with mine, and like I could relate to where they want to get to with their businesses.
It sounds we can hear your passion about design, about everything that has light, you know, and I mean, no wonder as I'm listening to you that you chose this name for your agency, NOOR ANISA.
It's actually my Muslim name as well, I forgot to mention.
Oh, really?
When I embraced Islam, I went with Anisa, and then someone said, why don't you put Noor at the beginning? It means light. And alhamdulillah, like I'm really pleased I did, because like it's only become something that I really resonated with and really want to grow into, like in recent years, like when I had the studio, because I realized what my mission was really, like what I want to do in this life, like that's pleasing to Allah, and that light bit really play a part. Like, you know, I want people to be lit up about their brands. I want them to be able, I want to help them to leave a sparkle in the world, and this is what Studio NOOR ANISA is about, and that's what I'm here to do. And I think I kind of like made it my mission to do that. because it really, well, it lights me up too. And it's something that I know is very kind of Allah, like Allah first, or Allah in the center. And that was always something I was looking for. When I was working in design agencies, I didn't have the choice. I couldn't choose my clients. I was doing things or designing for brands and sometimes it didn't feel right because the values didn't align. But with Studio NOOR ANISA, with Poppetry, when I went to niching just for Muslims, everything just fell into place, subhanAllah. And so it feels good as well, because I know I'm doing this for Allah. And like, yeah, that's kind of like how I kind of realized actually NOOR ANISA is an appropriate name for the agency.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name.
I want to kind of like, be living and breathing that and show a good example, I suppose.
Yeah, and I always like, one of the things that also is motivating me is remembering that the source of life is Allah. It's one of his name, one of his attributes is An-Nur. Revelation is light. The faith that we carry is light. And in the world that we're living, which is so full of darkness, we have to spread that light and helping each other. When we help each other, we actually help this light shine brighter.
Yes.
That's also what's motivating me to really direct my efforts to the Muslim community, especially to the women. Because when we realize this responsibility that we have, whether we like it or not, and that we take this light and we become beacons of light, as they called it, then we can only make this world a better place. And we will shine, and the non-Muslims will also they will also see the light. This is how we have to think it that way. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm just living my life and, having a low profile and going about my day, pray 5 times a day. Yeah, that's all good and fine. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also says in the Quran that he chose humans, the sons of Adam, alayhi salam, to be his representative on earth. Like, if you're a human being, then you have a mission, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And I always see this as like, it's like doing da'wah, isn't it? And it has to come from us. We have to embody all that. And I think it's so important for like the whole, Muslim Ummah to be elevated for people to be able to look up to it, because, like, Islam is a beautiful religion. And yeah, it's there's been so much bad press and so much fake press, and I think we need to rise up and show that that's not the case. And that's why I do what I do, because brands are a big part of our life. It's what we see as our identity, our belonging, and that's why I make it my mission to help Muslim brands, because then when they're elevated, it helps elevate the ummah, it helps inspire younger generations. And then obviously, like you say, where you are focusing on women for us to shine a light, we are the ones who also like spend a lot of time with our children, right? And guide
Exactly,
them. We're an example to them. And I think it's important that the younger generation see like what's possible and be inspired to take that work even further to shine the light and make this world a better place. So yeah, love what you're doing, and I think we are like aligned in terms of what we're trying to do to in this world.
Yeah, may Allah accept and grant us tawfiq so that we can continue and have this impact and spread the light, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Are there any problems? Obviously, like everyone else, we have our struggles. Are there any specific lesson, or maybe just one lesson that you could share with us that you draw from these challenges in your life?
So I think there were so many, I've actually got lists of 10 lessons that I've learned here, but I'm just going to choose some. I think some of the main problems or challenges, and that I also see in a lot of business women that I speak to, is that actually there's two or three. Like, number one, that's that sense of self-worth. Like, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough. Like, who am I to put myself out there, right? And then there's perfection. Like, it's not good enough. It's not ready to be out there. Like, I need to do ABC before I can do XYZ. And, that's that. And then I also hear a lot of people like feeling like they need to prove themselves. Because that was how I felt. I felt I had to prove myself. And I don't know, it might be to do with my personality type as well. I think that's
Proving yourself to others or proving yourself to yourself?
To others. To others. And you can probably see where I'm going with this is, that whole, I think the lesson I've learned through the last, I don't know, like, I think especially in business, since having my own business, I think that's where I really learned a lot of lessons, is that, there's no one else to prove to, like, other than maybe myself. But also, I'm not doing this for others. I'm doing this for Allah and for myself. And, like that whole, I've got to, when I had Poppetry, like, I always felt like I had to prove it to my mum-in-law. I had to prove it to my husband. I can do this, I can. And then I really burn myself out. And I'm always like chasing something. And then obviously kind of like what goes into that as well, the proving, is because I don't feel like I'm good enough. Like, I feel like I'm gonna get judged. Like, I'm gonna get judged for not doing this. Like, yeah, I'm running a business, but at the same time, I got to be a really good mom. I got to multitask, and like, if not, I'm an epic failure, and like, I have to do everything. And I think there's a lot of recurring themes. I'm sure you totally relate to that, and you've heard a lot of it as well. Everything kind of just fits into each other, isn't it? And then because of that, I had no boundaries. People could step over my boundaries, and then I'm like sometimes just resentful because I've just said yes to everything, or like try to go out of my way to do things for others, and then not having time for myself, not having that breathing space for myself. And then obviously I'm not moving forwards in what I'm trying to do, because I'm always chasing, hustling. And then sometimes through all the hustle and bustle, forgetting Allah, because you're trying to get certain things done, right? And again, like the perfection, obviously, another one. You just waste time trying to be perfect. And I think the lesson from all this that I learned is that, like, when it comes to proving myself, like, number one, there's no one else to prove to other than Allah and myself. Because, when I die, like, where's my my regret won't be because I didn't live up to the standards of somebody else. It's because I didn't do what I was supposed to do, like in Allah's eyes, in my own definition. And I think that relates back to perfection as well, because I see like, we want excellence, we want to do things with ihsan, but ihsan, having that also means that you're okay with making mistakes to get there. Whereas perfection, you're just like, there's no other way, you have to do it this way, otherwise you're a failure. But there's, even Dyson filled like, I don't know, 5,000 times or something like this before he got a vacuum cleaner that was like the best that it was. And it's about failing faster to get to the successes. It's about growth. So for me, it's like I've had to reframe. There's no perfection. Only Allah's perfect, and I'm meant to learn from everything. All my failures, all my wins. What is Allah trying to teach me? That's like one lesson. And then the next one is, when it comes to self-worth, it's what it is like, okay, do I really care what other people think? And like, do I have to live to their standards? I think, this year, or not this year, actually, we're just in the beginning of this year, last year. So in 2023, during Ramadan, when I started to put the hijab again, I think that kind of really made a huge shift for me, because that's when I decided, you know what, I'm not going to care what other people think. I care what Allah thinks. I'm not going to die not having put on my hijab because I'm so scared of what other people think. And that really, I'm like, you know, come what may, yeah, my husband might think I look terrible in hijab or whatever. I don't care. I'm just gonna put my hijab on now. And so it's like, but it was like baby steps. So like, okay, just try it first and see what happens. And put it on WhatsApp picture so everyone sees that I've got a hijab. But then it's like, okay, I'm not talking to them, so they can slowly get into it. But it was from there, I think, that I was like, you know what, everything is for Allah. And yeah, I don't care what people think. And I think that's really helped me to kind of just move forwards and do things I want to do and be, you know, like I said, being unapologetic, being authentic. And you know, I'm not trying to be nice. I've realized recently that, you know, I've always tried to be nice. I've always tried to be a people pleaser. And I think there's something to do with self-worth again. But and being nice is just pretending to be okay with somebody's views, and that's just being fake. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to be honest, and that's actually more kind than trying to be nice, you know, because of what society defines it to be, or defines you should act. So I think that leads into, you know, drawing boundaries for myself. That's something I'm still working on, is that I need to draw boundaries for myself, for you know, for my own sanity, you know, put myself first, because no one else will. At the end of the day, I have to enforce it, because I value myself. If I don't value myself, then how are other people going to value me or respect me and all that? And that, you know, as you can see, ties back to the whole perfection and self-worth. And like, I think at the end of it, it is, you know, putting Allah first, and being okay with like making mistakes and failing, because it is a journey of growth. Yeah, and I think just surrendering to Him. And like, you know, if you have big dreams, then be okay as well with people thinking that it's crazy, because I have had that, like, you know, people thinking that it's like crazy, too lofty. But you know, Allah can do anything, so it's not too crazy for Him, it's not too big for Him. But it's also, what I've also learned is that I should stop coming out with excuses and not take the action to do those, to get there. Because you can't be like, it's like tying the camel, right? You have to do it, and you have to do it right. So it's like, I always say, you have to tie the camel, but you also got to tie it right, and learning how to tie it right so it doesn't run away. So yeah, so those are kind of like the lessons that I've learned, and the problems that I've kind of overcome. That's been a lot of, I think, mindset shifting, but also a lot of having to take action.
And what's the specifically, like you've touched upon it, but specifically, because this is what this whole discussion is all about. How did faith help you, you know, overcome the challenges, and what role did it play in all of this process? Because I can hear that there has been a lot of reflection on your part, a lot of, you know, questioning yourself, questioning why you were feeling or thinking a certain way, and challenging that until you came to this conclusion that at the end of the day, who cares what people think, because what they think is changing all the time. So I'd rather just think about what Allah thinks, because He's the one who knows me better, and He's the one who's going to judge me anyway.
Precisely. Okay, so how has my faith helped me? You know what? I think it's we always talk about resilience, right? And I think through a lot of the hardships, it's that I remembered, you know, when we had COVID, and everyone was like, oh, you know, it's like the end of the world, and like, what are we gonna do? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I remember, Alhamdulillah, we've got Allah. Because if not for Allah, I don't know how I'm going to go through this. It's you know, it's knowing that there's a plan for everything, and that we don't know any better, right? Like we don't know what he's got planned for us. He's got something planned for us. And like I said, from my previous experiences of how I got to where I am today, like I've had those big dreams, and I never knew the how, but Allah knows the how. I think the main thing is that, you know, I think where the faiths come in is it's taught me to you know, just focus on the why and the what, and leave the how to Allah, because he might have, like, it might, you know, what you want might just manifest itself in a very different way. It might happen in a very different way, in a better way than you think. And how my faith has kind of influenced my work is that, you know, that desire to uplift other Muslims, and yeah, to uplift other Muslims, and just being very true to our Islamic values. And it's, I mean, we can see how, I mean, you know, when I maybe I'll use my own example. Like, as I still remember, like when I first came to London, when I didn't have my hijab on and I had to pray secretly. It's like, you know, I would go to the pub with my colleagues, and even though I don't drink, and pretend to like there's that wanting to fit in and like be accepted. But I think over time, I think how my faith has helped me is that actually, you know what, it's okay. Like, I can be different, but you know, as long, like, the whole something that, you know, I know I'm kind of jumping places here, but something that I hear people say a lot is wanting freedom, right? They want freedom to give freely. They want freedom to do this, to do that, freedom in their business, freedom for their to like be able to spend time with their family, etc. And I realized that through what's happened recently, you know, with like Gaza, like having freedom actually also means being able to stand up for your values, and being able to act according to your values, because we've seen so many people or politicians have to say something else or go against their values because they are like, you know, there's something else controlling them. That's how I see, and that's why I talk about like being unapologetic and authenticity a lot, because this, like, being the least you could do is hold on to those values, because that's what allows you to be free, knowing that you know, there's another life, there's that dunya is not the final place. That gives a sense of freedom, I feel. So that's how I think that's how kind of like the faith has shaped me in a way, or helped me to go through periods of like the lows, but also when it's the highs, it's like I feel like I want to do so much because Allah will help me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. The faith is very uplifting when we get it right, and we realize that everything that happens to us is a blessing
Yes.
if we are thankful or patient for it. In other words, when we remember Allah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, subhanallah. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that as well. There's also one thing that I'm interested about, because again, you know, speaking with women all of the time, like a lot of things that you said earlier about self-worth, you know, the feeling of not feeling good enough and so on. Like uh, there's also things that I experience myself, but also it's a something I keep hearing. Like it's very, very common among Muslims and non-Muslims. So something I'm also curious about is to know about you in your experience. Were there any misconception or a limiting belief, or maybe several limiting beliefs that were holding you back? And when you realized, when you became aware of that, how did you overcome these misconceptions or limiting beliefs?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest limiting beliefs for me was thinking that I had to do everything. And I kind of touched on it earlier, like thinking I have to do everything and that I'm a failure if I don't do everything and everything well. And I think
When you say everything, be the perfect mom, the perfect business owner, the perfect wife.
yeah, and then we're like being therapists to our kids and being like, you know, obviously having to clean the house well and be the best cook and, you know, everything, right?
Everything, yeah.
But I think, you know, I kind of tie this back a little bit to with my mom. Like she was, even though my parents were still together, they were like, you know, kind of separate in the same house, if that makes sense. This was prior to the divorce. And you know, it's very lonely. I could see that, and I mean, she's a super mom, you know, alhamdulillah. But life was hard for her, and it was like very different circumstances. Like I think, you know, every generation it's kind of different. You know, like how I'm sure you know about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah. Our parents were that very different needs. My mom didn't have a proper education, and you know, I think alhamdulillah, my generation anyway, we had that opportunity, and like certain needs were met, and it's like, you know, you're always going up towards the next one. I think this generation has been about self-actualization and, you know, having that sense of belonging as well, right? So like I think yeah, so what held me back was like thinking I have to do everything like her, but I don't have to. Like if I could get a cleaner so that I've got more time to like work on my business that would actually help other people, maybe, for example, or I could get, you know, I could basically save time so I could be more present with my kids, then why shouldn't I be? Like, why do I, you know, I was a latchkey child, like I said, and I wish my mom was around more. So while she did everything, I didn't get as much of her as I like to during certain times. And so, you know, I think when I let go of the fact that I have to do everything, especially with having my own business, which like none of like my family, anyone's ever done. And therefore they couldn't understand. Like I had to let go of the fact that I have to also be like the, you know, like the perfect cook or like keep the house like super tidy or all that. Like that some things have to give. And you know, for me, if I didn't go after my dreams, I'm gonna be miserable, and that's not gonna be good for my kids either, or my husband. I don't know if anyone's ever watched this movie called Bernadette or something like that. It was about this interior designer who got really cranky because she didn't have that self-actualization. She didn't get to do the design. She was just at home. And so that movie also made me think like, you know what, for me to give the best of myself to my close ones, I need to meet my needs too. And if that means I have to get a cleaner, okay, so be it, right? So yeah, so there's that. And then plus, you know, I think with my personality type, like I'm an ENFJ, I'm someone who loves talking to people. And when I realized that, actually, you know what, let's stop that. I mean, to be honest, first of all, you know, as a Muslim community, we should be more about collaboration over competition. And that's something I've seen like it's been an issue when I had my own business. But when I've collaborated with other women and everyone's pulling on their own expertise, like so many amazing things happen. And, you know, I think that's why it's great that we're having this conversation. And, you know, there's more and more Muslim women having those conversations, because this is how we uplift the Ummah, by having those collaborations, because one person can't do it.
I think, you know, the competition is, I don't know, I could be wrong, but my, you know, my little theory is misunderstanding or not having actualizing the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also a razaq, and the rizq that he provides is unlimited. So it's not like you have a pie and once everyone has taken its part, there's nothing left for you.
Yeah.
because
Yeah. True.
this is un-Islamic to think that way. And when you know that your risk, first of all, it's already written for you,
Mm. Mm.
and and you just have to do your best. Like you have to put in the efforts. And
Definitely.
yes, there are other people who might do something similar to you or whatever it may be, but collaborating so we are stronger together
Mm.
rather than, being afraid, oh, if this one gets ahead of me, then it means that I will be I will get less,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, less I don't know, like less visibility, less clients, less profits, or whatever it may be. And it's not actually, when you know that the risk is unlimited, you
Mm.
just have to work for it and make dua. And you know, again, what's written for you is written for you.
Yeah.
You're going to get it, whatever your neighbor, your competitor is doing. And that's why, I don't mind, like as a coach, I have many other coaches in my network, but I
Mm.
don't mind, helping them. Like, it's not like helping, but you know how it is, like a small business owner.
Mm.
Any, on your post on social media, anything, you feel like, okay, this someone is supporting me here.
Mm.
We're not a big influencer with millions of followers. Like every like counts, and we see each
Mm.
and every one. This is the thing. This is the reality.
Yeah.
And when I see one of my fellow coaches, they just got, maybe no one reacted to that post, then this is when I'm going to, and if I see it, because obviously the algorithm, they have to show you the post because of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So that's another thing. But when I see it, so I'm telling myself, okay, now the algorithm show me this post. What am I going to do? Am I just going to ignore her, or am I going to put a like there, if I
Mm.
have time to comment something, because
Definitely.
I know this, it means a lot for her.
Definitely. Definitely.
And
Yeah.
this is this mind shift that we have, to make, and not being happy when, the competitor didn't, get any support. I mean,
Yeah.
how un-Islamic is that?
Precisely. And I wholeheartedly agree with you as well. And in, just to add on to what you said about like what is written for you. I mean, I like there's something that another coach had said before. It's, sometimes it maybe you're not getting it yet because like who do you have to be to get it, to get what you want? And like you said, Allah's unlimited and he's going to give you what you want. I mean, if you're asking for goodness, of course he's going to give it to you. But what are you doing to get it? And then and 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 like he's and we're always told, right, like we give, then he gives us more. And I think it's not just in terms of money, it's also in
Yeah.
terms of like your actions, like what are good deeds that you can do, and it's going to come back more. And like there's never going to be, I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be anything bad with like trying to help each other to
Yeah.
uplift everyone together,
And
because
also, as I was listening to you, the hadith of the Prophet. I mean, we all know that hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you will not believe, like really believe, until you want for your brother or your sister what you
mm,
want for yourself.
yeah,
Well, how does this translate in reality?
definitely. And that's what we have to do, isn't it? Like that we want this, then we know the other people want that
Like
too. And
we all want paradise, but what are we doing to get there?
precisely. And sometimes, yeah, you're right. I mean, everyone, almost everyone I've spoken to, like the Muslim brands I work with, they want to have that sadaqah jariyah. They want
Mm.
to be able to leave a legacy. They want to make this world a better place. Like, look, we all have the same goals. Why
Yeah.
don't we help each other? And like I think that's enough. Like I said before, there's enough bad press about Islam already. But we should work together. And we've seen how working together like works for, I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but with Israel, they've worked together for many, many years. And if you look at them as a big brand, that's why they are having that success now. Look at how much they control. Um, and I think that's what we need to do. Like, it's kind of like do you like, if you remember how it was like with the Islamic Golden Age, I think, you know, as Muslims, as Muslim brands, businesses, we are going to be able to achieve more by collaborating together.
We have to. It's
And
not, I think we if the current crisis is showing us something, is need to wake up,
yes,
and
yes,
we don't have a choice.
yes.
Like
I
we will always stay behind. Let's say it like it is. We will stay behind so long that we are not going to coordinate and collaborate
yeah,
and put our money where our mouth is.
precisely. No, I totally agree.
And just today, I was having the conversation, and I've been writing that as well.
Mm,
It's like, there is this saying, we want to get a seat at the table.
mm-hmm.
I'm I'm tired that we are chasing the people who actually they hate our values to get a seat at their table.
No,
We
we're
are
creating our own
perfectly
table.
we are perfectly capable of, like, we have the resources, we have the skills, we have everything to build our own tables and invite whoever we feel
I
we are
agree.
aligned with to come and sit with us.
Precisely. Precisely. Yeah. And I think that's what we are both doing as well, because it's no more, I think it's no more like we're just gonna try and fit into something
Yeah.
else.
It's
We have
it's
to
never
make
going to work. Look where it brought us. I mean,
like,
look where it brought us, trying to fit. Oh yeah, okay.
and I think that's
You're
what
fitting all
happened, isn't
right
it?
now.
It's always been like, oh, we are trying to fit in, but why don't we create something and invite the people who share those values? And yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
it's so sad,
exactly.
subhanallah, it's so sad. And again, if the crisis in Gaza, if it hasn't shaken us and helped us really reevaluate our whole perspective on life, on this world,
Mm,
on how the world powers work.
yes.
I mean, what's going to do that? Are you waiting for that bomb to fall on your house?
Mm,
I mean, it doesn't have to come to that, because the ummah as it is already paying such a huge price.
okay.
Yeah, we've been just asleep. We've been, turning a blind eye because it's been going on. Just this morning, I was thinking, all of this youth there, with the internet, with their smartphones, they are filming their reality. But
Mm,
it's not that it hasn't begun on the 7th of October, yeah?
no, no,
It has been like that. It's just that we didn't see, we didn't know, but
no.
they were living in this nightmare all of this time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, now we really have no excuse.
No, no, I think it's like, especially when, you know, I know people like saying, oh, to boycott this brand or boycott that brand, it kind of brought up, I mean, being a brand strategist and someone who knows about brands, like this is the time when you realize, my goodness, there's so many brands that are, you know, controlled by no
Yeah,
designers. And where are our people? Why are
yeah,
we not supporting our own? Where are the Muslim brands?
yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important to get more kind of Muslim brands up there. Not just because like we're Muslims, but because I know that, because I know as a Muslim and what our religion is about. There's the values, you know, the what we do, how we are going to benefit the you know,
The whole of societies.
the
Because
society.
Islam is not here just to benefit the Muslims. It's here to benefit
Precisely,
humanity.
precisely. And like, where are we?
Yeah.
Where are we? Like, where are the big brands? And
We
think
have to we
time
have
it's
to build
time
them. We
to
have to
do
create
something.
them. We have to roll up our sleeves. And if we can't see that in our own lifetime, we have to be the super role models for the next generation.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Or even like just pave the way for them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. pave the way for them and show them, yeah, look, this is possible, and here's which, so this brand did that and this brand did that, and this is what we can achieve when we get together. I mean, I mean, we, there's so much to say about that. I mean, we
No.
have been colonized in our countries and in our minds,
In our thinking, yeah,
in
definitely.
our thinking. We have to decolonize, our minds, our psychology, and
Yeah.
return to our values, to what our faith has prescribed, like what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator who knows what's good for us, what
Mhm.
has he prescribed for us if we want success in this life. There's nothing wrong about it. We are speaking about money here. Like, if you don't have the money, you're not getting anywhere. Like, we need the money, and so
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. However, how do you use that money? Like, Allah
precisely.
subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has blessed you with this wealth. Now you have to do something for
Mhm.
the community. You have to give back, and let's not forget that everything that you give on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find it on the akhirat. That's why it's never going to decrease. Like, your wealth is never going to decrease by giving to others.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of shifts
a lot of
to be
shifts.
to be made. Yeah.
I think you touched on a very important part, which is about the money mindset amongst Muslims and what the meaning that it holds. And I think that is what's been holding a lot of people back as well, thinking that, money is not good, or like if you charge, then like is it exploiting Muslims, or people think that you need to make this free because it's sadaqah jariyah. And then where do we put our money? We put it into like all these other big brands that
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
not helping our community.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Doesn't
okay,
make sense. It
let's
doesn't make
relook
sense.
at that.
Like, you're happy to buy, the luxury designer brand bag for I don't know how much, and it's okay, like,
Yeah.
because it's this brand. But when your Muslim sister or brother is charging for the services of a product, oh my God, like, it's
Yeah.
why aren't you doing this fi sabilillah?
Yeah. I know. I think that's such a huge
Make it make
shift that
sense.
needs to happen. I know, right? So, and I think this is one of those things that need to be kind of like shifted for us to move ahead in the right direction. Um, but alhamdulillah, I know, like with the boycott of all these brands, I've seen like, okay, there's also all these Muslim brands that you can support. Go ahead and spend the money there, because these people, like, the brands I work with, like, they do amazing things. And I know for a fact they would put quite a good portion of the profits to like helping the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, for example, or to Gaza, or to wherever. And alhamdulillah, we've seen how Huda Beauty, being a successful brand, they were able to put so much money into the relief for Gaza. And this is why it's important. Well, this is where, like you said, money it's just like a currency, right? It's just energy, and it's what you do with it. And as Muslims, if your Islamic values are intact, you're obviously going to do something good with it, rather than, I mean, and not to say that you can't spend it on yourself, but or that's why I say everything is with Allah at the center, isn't it? If
Yeah.
every decision you make, you put Allah first, then you can't really go very far wrong.
Yeah. And I know maybe something that I'm going to say is kind of, unpopular opinion, or,
Mhm.
I might have trigger warning what I'm going to say now, but, you know, what just happened a few days ago, I don't know when the podcast will be out, but whatever. With the countries who stopped funding the UNRWA, so
Yes,
helping the aid to the refugees, and obviously in Gaza, Palestine. I think it's a blessing in disguise. Like, again, why are we waiting for them to
precisely.
to fund this aid? Like, we are not going to go as far as saying, why do we need this aid in the first place? Because Allah
Mhm.
Mustaan, it's just, the way it is. We can't go back in time. It happens. But how come, like, with the wealth that Muslim countries and Muslim all around the world have, that we don't have this institution, a Muslim institution like a waqf or, Bait al-Mal or whatever, like
Mm,
we used to have in back in the day, um, to help the Muslims in need. Why is it that we're always chasing them when we know that they, at their core, they hate Islamic values?
mm, mm. Yeah, it's a good question. And I've been wondering that as well. Why do we have to wait for them?
Like, why are we so dependent? Like, there's something really wrong
Mm,
that we had to depend on the help of the UK, the US, who's bombing them,
mm.
like, who's, anyway, Germany, Italy, and I
Oh,
don't know who else was on the, like, who said that they were also stopping to fund. And I mean, we have to wake up now. We really have to wake up.
you know what? This has like shown me, and I'm grateful that it's happened. And well, I'm grateful to, what I don't want to say I'm grateful because this shouldn't even happen, right? Oh, this shouldn't even be happening. But like, what I want to say is that it's given us a chance to see whose side we can be on, or to see like who we really shouldn't be supporting, because everyone's true colors are starting to come out now. And if you have eyes, you have a heart, you can see, like you can make that decision for yourself. And I mean, some of the things I'm seeing is just I can't even believe what I'm reading or seeing or hearing. But yeah, back to your point, like, I think we need to take things into our own hands. And we have, like, through what's happened to like the Prophet, peace be upon him, like, how Khadija helps to like fund, like she was the wealthiest woman, right?
Yeah.
And she helped to fund, like she put in money to help all to help the ummah in like dire times like this. And I think that brings it back to a point why we need to be taking things into our own hands and making sure that we are successful and financially able to be able to take that finances and put it to good use. Because the more financially successful we are, and unfortunately, oh, not unfortunately, well, money speaks, right? The more financially successful we are, then the more influence and power that we can have, but to do good, not to do bad, to do good. And we can't let just one side have all that, right? And then we are helpless.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say much because, I still want to go to Hajj and Umrah. I think
Mhm.
that's enough if I just say that. But subhanallah, the money is in the wrong hands at the moment.
I know.
But
I know.
inshallah khair.
Inshallah.
I don't think the people who are responsible to giving out the visa are listening to this podcast anyway. So inshallah khair. But just to say again, there's no freedom of speech. Like I'm on my own podcast and I have to be careful. Okay, what can I say now? Oh, not, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
alhamdulillah, just a
yeah.
small podcast, maybe few people are going to listen to that. And
You never know, it might go viral.
I don't think so. Anyway, it's not my intention anyway.
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah. So let's move on.
Yes.
And you remember before we started and I asked you how much time do you have?
I'm sure we can continue chatting for a very long time. There's so much. I think there's so much to cover.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, our hearts are so heavy
Mm.
at the moment.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. So there is a lot to say, subhanAllah.
Mm.
So I think we've covered pretty much your mission, your vision, your why. Now, let's go into something maybe a bit lighter.
Okay.
What we've been saying was very serious. So let's
Yeah,
get into, more girly stuff.
girly stuff. Okay.
Please tell us about your routines. I'm sure you have, some of your routines and What are the things that you do on a regular basis to help you stay on top of your game?
Okay, so my daily routine. Well, obviously I'm in charge of the daily like drop off and pickups, but then in between is when like, okay, work. And to be honest, I think like doing the work with Studio NOOR ANISA takes up pretty much a lot of my day because I mean it's something I'm passionate about. So like it's what I love
It's not a
doing.
hobby, it's your business.
Yeah, precisely. And now I mean the business needs to run, right?
Yeah.
And
Run
also
fast.
and then I do have some side projects that I've got in the works. And I think this is me where like cannot stay with just one thing. Like, you know, there are other exciting projects I've got in the pipeline that I'm kind of like, you know, trying to do as well. But I think what I've done recently, I joined the gym like late last year because I really need to look after my health. Because that's important, right? If you look after health, then everything else follows. And so yeah, like I've been enjoying yoga and Zumba. I'm back to dancing. I mean, obviously in a women's group, but I realized like when my husband allowed me to have that time, not allowed, but he said like, yeah, I'll look after the kids and you can go in the evenings. I was like, yay, because like there was like one Zumba class that was only on the evenings, and I realized that like that's when I could really feel free like and be myself, like I feel myself. And I think that's actually very important because otherwise the rest of the day is like it's for the kids, it's for the business, it's for family, there's no real like decompression time for myself. So that for me is important. And then I'm also like trying to like put in like journaling. I'm not a very regular journaler, I have to say. I find it very hard, but like I try to wake up. Well, actually, I wake up and mentally I try to, you know, kind of journal in my head. If I have the time to, when I have my tea, I will write it down. But I'm very much also like what gets me through the day. Like I love listening to podcasts and like courses and things on the commute back from school or on the commute to picking up the kids, because I think that's so important that we are constantly learning, and that's something that I actually do enjoy, like just picking up that one or two things. Yeah, and obviously like you know, making sure I've got time for Allah, whether it's like learning Arabic on this new app that I found called Kalam. So I'm trying to learn that, like learn all the Arabic words that are in the Quran. Or I've got this book that lets you write Arabic, like write kind of copy the Quran ayahs. So I'm kind of like doing little things because I know I don't have the time to do everything like for a long period of time. It's all the little things that matter. I think the most for me is like if I constantly remember Allah, then my day feels good. Otherwise, I feel a bit just like off.
Yeah, something's missing.
Yeah, something's missing. So yeah, so that's kind of like how a day today looks like. I'm basically running from one place to another and trying to squeeze in as much as possible into my head.
Next, I want to know from you as well,
Mm,
because every time I ask this question, I get a different answer.
okay.
What does it mean for you to strive to become a woman of Ihsan?
What does it mean? I think it means, like for me, it makes me feel closer to Allah. Like it's a way for me to deepen my connection with Him. But also I see it as da'wah for other people, whether it's my kids, other women in business, or you know, even other religions. Like I always see that I have to, not I have to, I get to, you know, show people what Islam really means by embodying that you know, that ihsan. And it doesn't mean that it's perfect, but it is about growth. It's about, you know, starting messy. It's about, you know, just for me, it's almost being obsessive about wanting to do something well for the sake of Allah. And yeah, so that's what it means to me.
MashaAllah. Again, another answer. I'm sure I will have every time I get a different answer, subhanAllah. And this is, I think, the beauty of the concept of of these conversations. We, like you said earlier, we all want to, like, we have the same goal, the same destination. At the end of the day, we all want paradise. We all want Allah to be pleased with us. But how we get there, our journey is unique and just special because it's just us. And
Precisely.
yeah, it's different for every one of us, subhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
We are coming too close, inshallah. Please bear with us. I still have a couple of questions to ask. What message or piece of advice you would like to give to the audience, maybe younger sisters who are listening to that now?
I would say, does it? Well, I'm just thinking whether it's one piece, two piece. I think for me, something that's really helped me, I think that would help like the younger sisters, is always like like I mentioned earlier, all throughout the podcast, it's having Allah at the center. Anything that happens to you, it's like, what does Allah want you to learn from it? Any decisions you make, He's like, make it together with Him. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, is sometimes it's not about the how, but having that strong why and the what, and then being able to surrender to Allah for the how, because it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy because Allah can make it easy. But I think that the biggest advice maybe I would like to say is to surround yourself with the right people, because I think that has been very important in my journey, especially for like the sisters who are like starting their businesses, or just on a different journey where you don't have to fit in, but you find the right group of people that have like-minded goals and values. And I think that has been something that's really helped me to thrive and actually even get closer to Allah. So yeah, I think that's the main ones.
Yeah, beautiful. It's really important. Like I love what you said about having a strong why, and the how will follow because it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and surrounding ourselves with good company. MashaAllah, it's I mean, sometimes what we say can sound so simple,
Hard to do.
but not necessarily easy.
Yep.
But the impact is huge if you can be consistent. Like it doesn't have to be super complicated, and
No,
you
it's
have to
not.
be explaining in 200 pages. Sometimes it's just one simple sentence, but to put it into practice is the key, actually.
Yeah. Consistent practice.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what's most difficult because it's what requires discipline. And our nerves doesn't like that.
Yeah, I know.
We are very much disciplined for scrolling on social media or something else.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Is there someone that you would like to see on the podcast as a guest? And what would you like to ask her?
Oh, I know there's someone I would like to see on a podcast. I don't know. I haven't really got a question for her because she's actually answered questions that have like just blown me away. So I wouldn't even know where to ask because. So let me share first who it is. So the person I'd love to see on the podcast is Zara from Practical Muslim. She's been amazing. She and her husband James actually have really kind of shifted my mindset massively. And it's about like what she talks about. Actually, no, you know what? I'll let her. I don't want to say it. I'll let her do the saying. But a lot of what I shared about how I've kind of like overcome certain challenges, etc., was because of what she talked about. So I'm just thinking, do I need to give a question to ask her?
If you have one, if you don't, there's no must.
No, I don't. Just because I've asked her all the questions I wanted to ever ask already.
Really?
And like, because I'm in a like Telegram group, or like I do attend like their sessions, and like I've had questions that I've asked on there. Maybe, I mean, I suppose one thing that I'm still struggling with, or like always trying to kind of put in place is, and actually I asked James this as well, her husband, but it is about boundaries. So it's like, how do you draw those boundaries? I mean, still being like, you know what I mentioned about, like, you know, you don't have to be nice. Like, it's not about being nice, it's about being kind, right? And I think how should I frame the question? I suppose it is about how do you draw boundaries and still be like a good Muslim? Like, what are ways to do that? Yeah.
Okay.
Does that help? Does it need to
Yeah.
be as specific as the
It's
question?
okay. No, it's okay. It's fine.
How do you draw boundaries? I think
I
that
just need to get a hold of her and get her on the podcast.
I can connect you with her.
Yeah,
I'm
I
happy to.
know who she is. I'm definitely connected with James on LinkedIn,
Yes.
but I don't know if I am with her. I can't remember because she's not much on LinkedIn. Yeah, but definitely you can do that for me.
Yeah. Yes, I will do that.
I'll have you work. And
No, I'm very
happens all the time. It's usually the third hidden question. And can you, if I'm not connected with the person, well, can you do please the introduction for me?
You're very happy to, very happy to.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much. Well, to finish, where can people find out more about you, Maylene?
Okay, so they can go to my website. So it's www.nooranisa.com. So NOORANISA. They can find me well, I'm more active on Instagram. So it's at studio.nooranisa, or actually I'm starting to get a bit more kind of active on LinkedIn now. You can just find me on LinkedIn, Maylene Seah. I think you'll type out the name, isn't it? So they can just
Yeah, I will share all the details, inshallah, in the description. You look at the description and you will find all the links to Maylene's social media and myself. So thank you so much, Maylene. It was very enjoyable. I thoroughly
likewise.
liked the conversation. It could have gone for a few more minutes, let's say.
No, it's my pleasure.
Maybe
Thank you so much.
we can have a part two someday.
Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah,
I'm
maybe
sure we have
more.
lots to talk about.
We can talk more specifically what we've been touching upon about how important design and branding is, being strategic about it, and just promoting Muslim businesses.
Yeah.
Inshallah. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone if you stuck with us until the end. Congratulations, and thank you again, and please show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Again, like I said earlier, it's I see every like, every comment, and I reply, and I'm very grateful. And it's only by your participation that the podcast can be shared and more people can get to hear what we have to say. Inshallah. So thank you so much. And Maylene, Jazakallah khairan. And may Allah bless you and make your dreams come true, inshallah.
Likewise. I mean,
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
alaikum salam.